Hey, welcome to Thought Thursday with Pastor Josh. A thought is the product of mental activity, that which one thinks. It is a single act or product of thinking, idea, or notion. We're going to talk about what that looks like today on this edition of Thought Thursday.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Thought Thursday podcast. Hey, here's the thought for today. What do you worry about? What are you worrying about right now? What's causing you anxiety in your life? You know, with everything going on with this crisis over the last couple months, I've really felt that we've been in a season of intense worry. You know, there's sometimes that I feel that. As a pastor, I know there's different things that I worry about at times, and it can be very easy to worry. And so what do we do when we come to that place of worry? Well, one of the things that I've really noticed over the last few months as well is that there has been almost like a new spirit of worship. Like there's almost been like a Psalm 40, like sing unto the Lord a new song. It's almost been like a Psalm 40 spirit over the last few months where there's been so many worship songs that are being written. It feels like there's more worship songs being written right now than ever before in the midst of this crisis. And I think there's something to that. I believe that it's supernatural. It's something that the Lord is doing. Because I believe that the more our worry increases, and then the anxiety increases, right? The more that happens, I believe that the more that happens, the more we're called to worship in those moments. And now I know we're called to worship all the time, and we're supposed to live in that attitude of worship. But I mean intentional moments and seasons of worship where the Lord is just... He's encouraging that. I know even over the last month or so, I've really felt the Lord doing that, even in my own life, where, you know, it's like I wouldn't necessarily just decide to stop what I was doing and break out into song, you know, like a musical almost. But there's been a season in my life where it's like that's kind of what's gone on, is that it's like, okay, there's a worship that needs to take place right now. Because really, it can be easy to look at our mountains, you know, and allow those mountains to define our God. But really, we're called to speak to the mountain about our God and remind the mountain who is God. And so my challenge to you is, man, turn worry into worship. Like when worry arises in your life, don't let it take over, right? Don't let it take over your life, but allow God to be seen as he really is in your life. Allow God to be worshiped in the middle of it. I love what John Piper says about this. He says that God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him. Man, I love that. God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him. Man, that's just such a beautiful picture. You know, I think about the song that was written recently. I think it was maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. And if you're a believer, I'm sure you've heard it at the very least. You've heard of it. But it could be argued that it's probably the most fast moving song on the charts. It's the one that everybody's singing it, and it's The Blessing. Now, when I first heard the song, I was listening to it. It was like, man, this is a beautiful song. The words of the song, it's all scripture. It's all scripture. So if anybody has an issue with the song, I've heard a few people that kind of have said something about the song. Remember that it's all scripture. Like, so if you have a problem with it, it's no different than having a problem with Psalm 80 or Psalm 190. You know, Psalm not 190. There's not 190 psalms, but Psalm 139 or something like that. It's the same idea to have an issue with it. And I think the issue arises when people look at it and say, well, this isn't necessarily a worship song. Okay. And I was even wrestling with that a little bit too. But then I had to really understand that this song, The Blessing, it is a song straight from Scripture that when we sing it, because actually it's not the first time it's been sung. Even the Jewish people sing that song. I can't sing it for you in Hebrew. But I have heard it sung in Hebrew. And so it's already being sung. When we sing a blessing like that, it's something beautiful that happens. And I've seen it happen. I've felt it happen even as I've sung that song. is that there's an honoring of God that takes place when we believe His blessings. There's an attitude of worship that arises, that can arise. I realize that you could sing it selfishly, but you could argue you could sing a lot of worship songs not focused on the Lord. But in that, if you choose to sing that song and you focus upon the Lord, the intent of the song and the idea behind it should spark in us really a blessing of the Lord for His blessing. It's really a return. It's a double blessing. It's being blessed by the Lord and blessing the Lord, and then He blesses us. And it's just this constant revolving blessing that happens because the Lord is the blesser. It is His desire for us to live in His blessing. That's why He sent Christ, to break the curse so that we could live in His blessing. And so I want to encourage you, even singing that song, looking at that song, that there's power in it when we believe what God says. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it. God is most glorified in us when we're most satisfied in Him. When we believe Him, when we choose to believe Him instead of the worry, instead of the anxiety that arises in us. And so my challenge to you today on this Thought Thursday is turn worry into worship. Turn worry into worship. It honors God when we do that. It honors Him. He becomes glorified in us when we are most satisfied in Him. So this has been Thought Thursday with Pastor Josh. Thanks for joining me today. I encourage you to turn your worry into worship as you go forward this week. Join me tomorrow for a special guest interview, and you're not going to want to miss that. So blessings on you.